Welcome to the STARS program, seniors taking active roles in society. And now, here's your host, Anita Finley.
Good morning.
Good morning, Anthony Kulp. Thank you so much. We're all doing this from our homes, which is interesting. And I don't know, I'm not even going to ask you what you're wearing. You could be undressed for all I know.
I'm wearing a tuxedo.
A what? A speedo?
A tuxedo.
A tuxedo. I thought you said a speedo. Sorry. that would have been more interesting, right? We
Next
have a
time.
new thing now that we have a new thing now, Anthony, that we have a call-in for 15 minutes at 8 o'clock, 8 to 8:15, and we're going to listen to call-ins. Now we can't have call-ins with our guests because we only have the one line, you call and then I'm calling, but I will tell you that I asked people to tell me what's going on in their life now and how they're taking care of themselves. And I think we're all doing it pretty much. I know you are. I am. And you, of course, are the number one realtor in South Florida. You are the senior real estate specialist. And I know you're not showing houses right now, are you?
No. But I have to say, you're number one realtor. I'm not the number one realtor. I have to make that clear, or else I'll get in trouble.
It's your number one. Oh, yeah, you're right. Thank you. I stand corrected.
I'll have everybody on top of me.
In my eyes, you're the number one, but that's fine. That's what you say. Okay, so tell me, as a realtor, what are you doing now? Are you just relaxing and catching up on other things?
No, real estate is an essential service because it's housing. And so, I have many settlements that still have to get to settlement, but it's very difficult because people are working from home. They don't have everything they need. The city, the county, the state is, working on a skeleton crew, or they're very limited to what they have. So it's been tough. It's been really tough.
And so what do you do with your days and your nights?
Well, my days, I have a private office that I go to that I don't have clients come to. So I don't really interact with nearly as many people as I used to. So it's a lot of it's spent on the phone, just following up with title companies and buyers and mortgage companies, making sure they have the information they need so we can get settled. I just had a settlement that was delayed a day, and the sellers were selling their home and buying a new home on the same day. So they had the moving truck packed, everything was ready to go, and last minute they, didn't settle. So they were racing to find a hotel room, which was very difficult. They had a cat, so they had to find a place, where they could bring the cat. And it was tough. It was really tough for them.
They could have brought the cat in your house.
Well, they did come to my office. They had to come and sit at my office for a while, and they let the cat out. So, of course, the cat is hiding under the couch. So we had to tear half my office apart to get the cat back in the cage.
Right. But just talking about what you just said, so that meant that they had to pay for that moving truck to sit there.
Yeah, their additional costs were about $600, and if it would have went another day, it would have bounced up to $1,300.
But they got in now, and they're there.
They were able to get in, and there was a lot of things that I did, and I want to give tips to people, which will be in next month's magazine. There's a lot of things you can do if you're having a dual settlement. Now, a lot of people that are older have the funds to be able to buy the new house and then sell their other house once they move in. But, if you remember when you were a move-up buyer, when you had small kids and, you were selling your first home and moving into a larger home, you needed those funds from the sale of your home to buy the next home.
Sure.
So, there's things you can do, and, but there's approximately 100 people involved in a settlement when there's financing. And that ranges from, of course, the buyer and seller all the way to the guy who's moving your furniture, and the lenders and the county and the city and the state. So if one person drops the ball, it can be tough.
So, Anthony, my guest is Anthony Kulp, and he is your number one realtor in South Florida if you use him. He is full-time. That's what he does. He has over 35 years of experience in the housing industry. He understands construction. He understands so many things. And he's such a nice guy, too. And let me give you his phone number. You know to take it down now. Maybe you don't need it today. Maybe you won't need it tomorrow. But I can rest assured you'll be needing it at some point, or you want to give it to a friend. His number is 954-815-9048. Again, that's 954-815-9048. And let me just ask you a question. You say in your marketing that you are a senior real estate specialist. Tell us what that means.
A senior real estate specialist, I take an extra training to understand the needs of senior citizens. And they're a little bit different. Sometimes it could be physical disabilities. Sometimes it has to do with transportation. There's a lot of other factors. In order for people to stay in their home after maybe they have to go into a wheelchair, is the home accessible? Of course, if you're 70 years old and you're buying a home, you're not going to buy a two-story home with steps. It just doesn't make sense. But a lot of builders now are making doorways wider, and some, if you're building a custom home, you can have them make all the hallways a little wider, 3-foot doors everywhere. And that's one thing. What we just talked about, if you're having two settlements on the same day, there's just certain things that you need to do with that. As you get older, it gets more and more stressful to move. And, as a real estate agent, you have to be aware of that. And that's why I took that extra training. Most of my clients are senior citizens. And when we first meet to sell their home or buy their new home, sometimes the questions I'm asking them, they think, why is he asking me this? Why isn't he asking me how many bedrooms and how many bathrooms and everything else? But, in South Florida, we live a lifestyle, and that's why people move so far away from their families to live here. But by living here, you have to think, what am I going to do in this home? Do I like to go to the beach? Am I going to continue to work? Do I need to be near transportation? Do I need to be near my doctors? Maybe you travel a lot and you need to be near the airport. So there's a lot of factors that come into it when you're a senior citizen, rather than when you're younger. The big thing is the schools and your job. Bedrooms, bathrooms, school, job. That's the most important.
So I have a question about this. Are there homes now, what I refer to them as granny flats? Are there places where you talked about the young people that they could buy a home and there would be a place that their parent or family member could live outside of
They have in-law suites, but you have to check with your local codes. Not everywhere allows that. If you're in a homeowners association, unless they have a specific model that has that in it, you may not allow to have a in-law suite. And also, you can't rent that out in most cases. It can only be a family member who stays there.
That's too bad in a way, Anthony,
yeah.
Because nowadays, and we see what's going on in nursing homes, I know there are a lot of people in nursing homes, they're not as sick as some people are, and yet they didn't have a place to go. And if they had a place, so do you think that those laws could ever be changed?
I think it would be difficult, especially if you're in a homeowners association. You could maybe remodel the house so you have 2 master suites, which could help. One of the things you have to take into consideration as well, in-law suites might not be the perfect situation because, it may not be set up. Usually they're squeezing in the space. The doorways are narrower. It's just also you may be leaving a parent home alone all day, which might not, that affects their mental health if they're not being challenged or, Now for every problem there's a solution. So if you have a senior citizen that's home all day, then you find adult daycare or community centers, something to keep them busy.
That's true. But it would be nice to have that choice. And I think I just read an article on this lately. It was in AARP, their newsletter, and it talked about adult living spaces. And I think that it would certainly save people money, because nursing homes now are pretty expensive. And, of course, if you need a nursing home, you need all the medical help. That's one thing. But there are people who don't, and they wind up in a place. So I was just curious how that's working for you, especially, there's also, it's been a reversal. There are a lot of older adults who have homes, and they're bringing in their families because their families need that help.
Right.
Are you finding that at all?
Well, a few months back we talked about group homes, and that's a really fast-growing industry. And somebody will set up a group home anywhere from 2 to 6. I think it's limited to 10. I'm not really sure. I'm sure state by state and how many people per bedrooms, it determines how many people can be in the group home. But they're having a lot of success with this. But you really, if your parent is in one of these group homes, you need to stop by there and check on them. You need to see what's going on. You can't just expect somebody else to take on all this responsibility, especially if you don't know who that person is. You should know everybody that is watching your parent or loved one. It's not always a senior citizen. It could be a handicapped child.
So you're not talking about the Golden Girls kind of a group home?
No. Well, I'm seeing that as well. I'm seeing people who lost money in the market, and people are taking in roommates and stuff like that. People in their 70s, have roommates, and in most cases they seem to enjoy each other because you have two people that are home all day. In most cases, they have somewhat the same interests, I knew these two guys who lived together. And what they did, the one guy would get up early. He would go to the gym, and he would come back around 11 o'clock. Around 11:30, the other guy would go to the gym. So they had time away from each other. They weren't always together all the time, and they really worked out a nice schedule for themselves. And that worked out. Now, it doesn't always work out. Sometimes you'll go through 2 or 3 roommates before it does. But there's solutions out there.
So it's like a marriage, right?
Well, they were just friends.
That's what I meant. No, I understand that.
Yeah.
No, I think, and also something that now, especially with the coronavirus, it's awfully nice to have someone right there because you can't go out and experience everybody else now. So living alone, I think a lot of us are affected by that, living alone, although we have friends and we can call them and all. So it's a challenge.
Yeah. Well, if you read in this month's issue, we have a lot of tips to keep yourself busy and to communicate with people and stay in touch with people. So if the listeners go back and read the magazine, we have a little article in there about that.
Yeah, well, in the April issues, you're talking Trapped but Not Bored?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was a great article.
I don't have it in front of me, but we have tips
I have
to...
it. No, I have it. But it was the title really got people going. Trapped but Not Bored. Our May issue will be coming out probably in another week, and I forget what you wrote about there, but I'm sure it's also very interesting because you always do that. See,
people don't understand. We write that a month prior to the magazine coming out.
Right.
So a lot of the things we wrote, I think I had something in there about don't go to the gym. Well, since I wrote that article, they had closed the gyms. So, but I got plenty of phone calls.
Yeah, right. Well, yeah, that's true. But the whole thing now, of course, you have to be very careful what you listen to. Everybody's hanging on to every word, but what Trump just said about this disinfectant being injected, I know that most people are smart enough not to do it, but apparently there are a lot of phone calls going into doctors and all. So please, Anthony, if anything you do, because you're so smart about this, do not put bleach or anything inside your body. Don't even put it on your body, right?
Right, absolutely.
Yeah, that was the worst. So we just have to be very careful about what we're doing because and I hope that you have your doctor's phone number handy.
Yeah.
You don't know how, and sometimes you're going to be sick, but not with the virus, but you do need to get tested, right?
Absolutely. And, it's unfortunate, but we have people that, are hypochondriacs. So they're going to go and get tested every week. They're going to go regardless if they don't leave their house. I have a friend, he wipes his light switches down twice a day. And I said to him, do you have people coming and going in the house? No, but I need to wipe the switches down. But that makes him comfortable. So if that makes him comfortable, go wipe them down. But I think the best way to avoid this virus is to stay home, watch what comes into your home, go out and exercise, but keep your distance, wear your mask if you stop and talk to people. It's becoming common sense now.
Well, coming on our cover, you're going to love this, our May cover, I was thinking of putting a beautiful mask on there as a symbol of what's happening, but I got into some places and I found the most hilarious masks that people are making. They look like they're from outer space. They're hysterical. So I have a whole row or two of these unusual masks. And also, I'm sure there's some businesses now that are being started making masks, decorative masks. That might be the thing. And for an older adult to wear a mask, it hides all their wrinkles. Not a bad idea.
I was in a parking lot, and there was 3 people in there, and they had this piece of cardboard display of all these different masks that they make. And it was maybe about 2.5 feet wide by 4 feet long. And they had a price on there. And they were all designer masks, from black to, I think one of them had the face of a cat on it. And they were selling them as people pulled into the parking lot. And there was 3 or 4 cars waiting to buy masks. So I don't know if they were on, on unemployment or, whatever the situation was, but at least they were making the best out of the situation, and they were all wearing gloves and they were all wearing masks. So, and there's a couple. There was a tailor shop in Wilton Manors that was also making designer masks.
No kidding. Well, there are a lot of artists down there, so they'll be pretty beautiful.
She made 40 masks, and she was sold out in 3 hours.
No kidding.
Mm-hmm.
And what were the designer masks? What were they looking like? I mean, with jewels on them and flowers?
No, they were mostly different materials. And she originally had them for $10 and $15. But she was so overwhelmed, she just said, I'll just do them all for $10. And she had all little different designs on there.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what's happening, isn't it? So let's just go back to your real estate company because it's important. When is it that you will think that you can start showing houses, selling houses, being in this business? When do you think that will happen?
Well, first we'll have the people who have urgency, whether they're starting a new job or moving to the area. We get a big bump in the late spring, early summer for people who want to move into a certain school district to get the kids in school. So anybody who has an urgency to move. In South Florida, we have a lot of second homes. So people who either are buying or selling their second home, they may wait a year. I don't see any problems with prices yet. We may have maybe in my opinion, a 2 or 3% reduction. But we typically, our prices go down in the summer anyway.
I see. So you're thinking that when it starts, I mean, people have to be comfortable with other people coming in, right?
Right. They have to feel comfortable flying here. Sometimes if somebody's selling their house and they're a few miles to the beach, then a lot of people who are looking for a second home, that's a house they would look at. But if they're not buying their house, then that person selling that house isn't buying their next house. So I think it'll pick up as we start to see the virus diminish. But then, we'll see what happens in the fall. Is it going to be safe to travel?
Let's talk about renters now. I read where if you're a renter that you can delay paying your rent or even mortgage. Is that true?
Well, the mortgage companies are not being very helpful because what they're saying is, sure, we'll put your mortgage off for 3 months, but on the 4th month you have to make a balloon payment. Well, if you can't make your mortgage payment for 3 months, how are you going to make a 3-month balloon payment? So
they're not adding it to the end of the mortgage.
Well, that's what it was supposed to be, but then the government never said, this is how you're supposed to do it, Mr. Mortgage Company. So the mortgage companies aren't being very helpful. Now, I heard on the news the other day that the government is going to make some sort of regulation that that's how they have to do it. If you think about it, most people don't pay their mortgage off. So the bank is going to get that money, before the end of the 30 years. People refinance, they move, so it's going to stop any kind of housing problem that we have, any foreclosures or short sales and stuff like that. So, but I think the banks are being a little bit greedy, and it would be horrible if the federal government was bailing out the banks or doing anything for the banks, but the banks weren't doing anything for the people.
True. What about renters? Are they able to get a delay of a month or two?
Talk to your landlord. Don't miss your rent. Just talk to the landlord, work something out. Maybe after you're back to work and you have income coming in, pay a little bit extra on what you owe, something reasonable that you can afford, because you don't want to say, oh, I'll give you an extra $600 a month when I'm back to work, but you can't afford that $600 a month. So, but if you can afford $300, then do that. And some landlords are being great. Some landlords are just so outstanding. They're just saying, okay, I'm going to cut your rent in half until you get back to work, and I'm not going to charge you anything. But the landlords, they're not. If they have a mortgage, they're not being helped. So, I am just impressed with everybody. All in all, people are handling this so well, and it's 7 and 8 o'clock when they're banging pots and pans or they're singing outside the windows. It just blows me away.
Do you know anybody who's in the medical field, and have you talked to them?
No. I do know people in the medical field, but I've not talked to them, other than I know they're working 12 hours a day. Yeah. I
know. Well, I'm a part of the Broward Health Foundation, and I do know that they're really working to make sure everything is right, and in case anybody needs anything, and they're trying to now get funds, donations. I guess, Anthony, until it really happens to you, it's just a lot of talk. But when you or a family member has this serious situation and you see what they have to go through, it's pretty devastating.
Absolutely, especially if that person is the breadwinner.
Right.
Absolutely. Then what do you do? There's a lot to do. You're mourning. You haven't had income for a while. Now you're not going to have any future income. It's a scary thing.
Well, and we have just a little time left, but I did want to say that the big thing for this, and as far as I'm concerned, is that when you are not feeling well, do go right away to your doctor. Find out. I know you talked about being a hypochondriac, but there are people who, if you have a fever or you don't feel like you used to feel, get to it right away, because, if it's something that they can help you with, it's great. The worst thing, I think, is when people are in nursing homes and their family members can't even visit them, or in hospitals. That's the rehab center. That's really bad.
I know. It's horrible.
So there are people that need to have some therapy. I think people need to find someone who knows how to talk to them about this. It's one thing that someone said very smartly: it will pass. We don't know when, but it will pass. And it's not like a hurricane, because a hurricane, we know. I think you and I talked about this. A hurricane starts, it has a beginning, it has an end. You suffer through no electricity or other problems, floods, but there's an end. Here we don't really know. And I don't think the experts really know, do they?
No, and I I think because we're so used to hurricanes here, that we're handling it better than other parts of the country. I also believe that everybody needed a break. You know, they needed this couple of weeks at home, get to know their family again, just get some rest. And hopefully they're not watching the news all the time. I mean, if you're watching this political climate and, it's just going to stress you out. But if you're enjoying your family and, you're catching your breath, it's unfortunate. I have a couple of settlements left. After that, I have nothing. And I'm trying to, I'm kind of looking forward to a couple-week break because I pretty much work 7 days a week.
I know you do. And I want to let me give everybody, I don't want to lose you until I give everybody your phone number again. Remember, it's Central Talk Radio. Please write this down. If you have any real estate requirements, whether it's buying, selling, or questions, please call Anthony. You can see he's on the radio, and he's so smart, and he's such a decent, nice man. I have to share that with you. You'll really like him. Once you start dealing with him, you'll have a friend. It's a 954-815-9048. 954-815-9048, and you can call him anytime. He will make himself available. I'll tell you that. And he's really very special. And he just, like a lot of us, had a pet for a long time. His pet just passed away, and that's hard. Very hard when people are in this situation. Of course, Well, Anthony, it's always wonderful talking to you. I'm glad you got up, and now you have the rest of the day to go walk and do something, right?
Yeah. Thank you for having me on the show, and I want to thank all the essential workers.
Thanks, Anthony.
Thank you. Bye-bye.